What's going on with eggs? Hello, this is Jonathan Mays, editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business, and in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I'm joined by Ricky Richardson, the CEO of the breakfast and lunch franchise Eggs Up Grill. We wanted to talk to Ricky because he recently posted about a decision his franchisees made in reaction to egg prices. We will let you listen to the podcast to know what that decision is. But egg prices have skyrocketed this year, thanks mostly to an outbreak of avian influenza, and that has prompted some chains to institute egg surcharges, such as Waffle House and Denny's. Ricky explains how big of a deal these price increases are to the company's franchisees and how Eggs Up and its operators are dealing with those price increases. We also talk about surcharges in general and the impact they have on customers. And we spend some time talking about Eggs Up and the breakfast and lunch category, quietly one of the hottest growing categories in the restaurant business in recent years. We're talking eggs on A Deeper Dive, so please check it out. Okay, I'm here with Ricky Richardson. Ricky, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so egg prices. I hear egg prices are high. That's what everybody's telling me right now. What's going on?
Yeah, they are incredibly and painfully high. You know, there is a couple of things interacting. The primary issue is the avian flu that everyone is certainly aware of, the inability for a lot of different efforts to eliminate that or tamp that down. It's unnaturally and unseasonably high. We typically see that some events in the falls, but it has continued into the new year. But yeah, our prices are right now 3x, 4 times what they typically are. We buy our eggs and in our restaurants in 30 dozen cases typically, and that's running us right around $230 a case right now, where you would typically see that in the $60 to $80 range, depending on seasonality. So quite an impact when you're Eggs Up Grill. We sell a lot of eggs.
Yeah. So give me some perspective. Like how big of a deal is eggs to you and your franchisees?
You know, to put it in a dollar margin standpoint, you know, when things are stable and typical as they are in the egg market, our purchases of eggs would be our third highest dollar volume purchase of the food products we bring in the back door. Some of the breakfast meats are the top spot, depending on what the bacon markets are and the pork markets are. But it's by far the number one cost that we have right now. And it is impacting our franchise partners to the tune of somewhere $1,200 to $1,500 a week in lost margin versus what they would typically experience in their business.
$1,200 to $1,500 a week.
It's significant right now
in lost margin.
All right.
Wow. That's kind of significant.
It is.
You know, the thing is, what we've seen is some of your competitors have done have opted to do a surcharge. Now, what was your response to that?
You know, there is, as I said, that brief note that we referenced earlier, we have a couple of franchisee representation councils, an owner's advisory council and a marketing advisory council. It's represents about 25% of our franchise partners. Obviously, there's been a lot of conversations and communications between Eggs Up and our partners about what's going on. As we started to see some other activity in the marketplace, in the category, as people started applying surcharges, it was important, I thought, to get those groups together and let's talk about where we are and what some options could be and how we should respond as a brand. As you may know, Jonathan, we're a 100% franchised system with the exception of one company restaurant. So a lot of small business owner representation as well as some multi-unit representation out there. I was expecting a pretty significant push to let's go do surcharges. Somebody else has already set the standard out there and set an expectation. So we won't be the first one out there. I didn't think that was the right and best thing to do for a long-term perspective of the brand and our relationships with guests and the reputation that we have. But I was incredibly encouraged and positively surprised. There was not a single one of those representatives that endorsed that as the best way forward. In fact, there was pretty strong reaction to, yeah, this is really, really tough right now, but our reputation and what we mean to our guests is more important than overreacting, in their view, to a short-term significant issue. And that's where we ended up with. We chose to, our franchise partners and we as the brand chose to focus on our long-term relationship with the guests, protect the positioning and perspective that guests think about Eggs Up Grill, be as efficient as we can in other areas of the business, and look at ways to try to mitigate this where we can.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that was the right move in terms of, like, what does it say to your customers, to your guests, that you're implementing this sort of, that you would implement this sort of surcharge? What was what was the drawback there?
Every business is going to have to make the right decision for themselves. Our perspective was that while it's certainly well known that there are issues in the marketplace, they see it every day when they go to the grocery store, right? It's not just with inside restaurants, but there's, tip fatigue out there. Everywhere you go, somebody's adding on tips to it. You're saying a lot of folks that do the takeout premiums, they do credit card processing fees. And our belief is that guests want businesses to understand what the cost of doing business is and build that into my price. I mean, airlines probably the worst example, maybe hotels, right? Where you see a certain price and you think that's what you're going to pay. And then you get all these other layers. And that group believed that tacking on a surcharge that screams right in front of the guest, oh, we're going to charge you extra today, leaned into that. Well, business is trying to find another way to push their cost of doing business onto me. Obviously, a retail price should capture the cost of doing business. And again, others could think it's the right thing to do. Ours was let's be transparent. Let's be open. Let's have a menu price that covers our expenses. And if we have to take price up there over time, then we'll take price up over there. But a guest is going to know what they're paying. And let's think about it also, Jonathan, holistically in the overall visit. If this is a short term, hopefully it is, situation, then that's where we ended up.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly understand why some brands should do that. As a rule, I'm not a big fan of surcharges. I tend to think they're advertised price increases. But I understand why you would do it, but it's just not really, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think, I tend to think like you do, just put it at the top line, bake it into your price, and that sort of thing. In this particular case, my sense of it is, and if you look historic, the last couple of years have been very different, but you've got to believe that eventually it's going to come back down.
The head of the FDA just had a Wall Street Journal opinion piece a couple of days ago where he laid out a 5-point plan that they're going to begin to start implementing better practices at the farms themselves, the producers' farms. How do they reduce spread? It's about potential vaccinations. They're working with the CDC on and others in the industry around that. They're looking at potential imports. Seasonality certainly helps. It's not atypical. If you think about even the human flu, right? That's typically a fall, early winter type issue. It has lagged on a bit here, but hopefully we see as things warm up a bit that we'll see some relief there. But you would think it's going to get back to somewhat of maybe a new normal, maybe a peg above where it has been historically, but much less expensive than they are now.
Right. That's usually they should do. As I said, you do see some of these spikes. And that's one of the things about the restaurant business. It's part of the job. And is it not? The restaurant business, just on occasion, just generally, almost any restaurant company just is on occasion going to deal with spikes for whatever reason. Coffee prices are spiking right now. You might have avocado prices spiking because of a hurricane in the wrong area or something like that. It's kind of part of the business, isn't it?
Yeah, it is part of the business, and riding out those spikes is important. When you have labor inflation that can certainly spike in here, that's not a spike. It's typically a step change. Minimum wage goes up or tip credits get impacted, but those things are coming, so you can plan that into your pricing models and what you're expecting. It's the significance of what sets this one a bit apart is the significance, particularly in the context of a primarily breakfast concept like Eggs at Grill. When it's, I was looking through the menu and go, okay, couldn't remember. Obviously, I know we sell a ton of eggs, but there's like 70%, 75% of our menu items that have an egg in it. And we use, with a very small exception of one of our batters that we make, we use fresh eggs. So we're hand cracking eggs, whether that's for pancake batter or waffle batters, or for egg entree dishes. Unlike liquid eggs, the liquid egg market is a lot more stable because the production time has smoothed out some of those spikes. So those of us that are using fresh eggs in every dish that we do got hit the hardest and the quickest behind this. But you're right. A business has to anticipate some of these, have some wherewithal to withstand those spikes, and then be really smart, because obviously if it doesn't settle back down to where we were before, as we take our spring menu, we typically do a spring and late fall review of menu pricing and operating cost and what do the markets look like. We'll have to factor some of this into those prices that we do a typical price. There's no way that you can price in a way to cover this 100%. Consumers just wouldn't accept that, and they shouldn't. Yeah, it's a interesting time. I was excited about how our franchisees responded to this. I think it's a reflection of the brand and the work we've done on the partners that we picked, but it certainly takes some creativity and focus on other areas of the business to control margins.
I mean, franchisees, really good franchisees in particular, have the long term in mind. I mean, those guys are, franchisees are in it for the long haul, and they understand that they have to keep, that customer that comes in tomorrow, they want that customer to come in 5 and 10 years from now. And,
absolutely.
And if they're gonna anger that customer, that's a potential lost customer down the line. So they understand that, because they want to they want to stay in business until they retire.
Yeah. And that's where the reputation is so important. And they work so hard to build that positive reputation and maintain that. It's, there's some cliche around how hard it is to build a reputation and how quick it is to lose a reputation. And so the maturity and long-term view that they had around how to manage that was encouraging.
Yeah. Do you have an estimate of how many eggs you guys sell a year? I know you guys used to at least count.
Oh, wow. That's a great question. We go through at our company restaurant about 7,000. We have one company restaurant. We're higher than our average unit volume. It's roughly 7,000 a week that we got through, 20, 25 cases, depending on the week, of 360 eggs. It's a lot, Jonathan. I should have known that.
No, that's okay. That's all right. I didn't actually
it's a lot. One of the things we worked really hard with this, Jonathan, is with our primary suppliers to ensure supply. There are concepts out there, as you've seen, and probably in grocery stores, as a lot of your listeners have probably seen, supply. People are running out of supply. So we've worked really, really hard to make sure we have not had that issue, and we've been successful with that so far.
Yeah. I guess my bigger concern just with the egg issue, well, there's two things. First off, what we're seeing now, interestingly enough, there's so much attention being paid to eggs that what you're getting are brands that, for one reason or another, get some publicity for not doing an egg fee like you're seeing. So they're somehow getting, positive press from it. I mean, I think we just had this situation where McDonald's this week got some really positive press for saying on that. Right. All they did was say, we're not going to implement an egg surcharge. Of course, McDonald's is not going to implement an egg surcharge. They're McDonald's, for God's sakes. I would have, if McDonald's would have implemented a surcharge, by the way, it was far more likely that I would dress in a chicken suit and start dancing in the middle of Times Square. I'm not doing that. Then they were to do that, but they're getting positive. Sure. They're getting positive press for not doing that. So that's one of the interesting things there. But the other, I guess the bigger concern that I tend to have is, with it is, right now, as you probably know, the market is just kind of challenging, just broadly speaking. And I don't think the restaurants have the pricing power that they used to, which might explain why some of them feel that they need to do this, because they're shifting the blame to the egg situation rather than just looking like a menu.
Yeah, it could be. We've been understand what you're talking about from the industry and from some specific categories that has some significant run up in average checks, primarily the reduction of discounts through a lot of their channels that help drive pricing through that this is a way to pass that on. We're a very low marketing brand. We don't do retail discounts. It's just not part of, we're fortunate to be able to grow our business both in terms of locations. We just opened our 91st location this past Monday. So another 20 or so to go this year. We're excited about the year, but not only in new restaurants, but same store sales growth. And we just completed our 16th quarter of same store sales growth. Excited about that. And my point being there is we've got a great positioning. Affordability is something we really focus on more through menu pricing and how we introduce new products to the market. And protecting that is really important to continue this momentum behind it. So, we've obviously had to take prices. Operating costs have increased, but our position relative to others in our category and in the industry continues to be a very value-focused position.
Yeah. So how are things going? So 91st, you just opened your 91st locations. I remember when you had one.
Yeah, I know you do. You've shared that with me before. Pawleys Island.
Yeah. Pawleys Island, South Carolina. The story is that my in-laws have a house there.
Okay.
And so they used to go all the time to Unit 1. And I remember when the brand started franchising. It was ages ago. And so we still go like every time. That is a must visit every time we go there.
That's great. As I've shared with you in the past, our founder is still a minority investor in the business. He's also a franchisee. He has 4 restaurants out in the Myrtle Beach area himself. He and his operating partner. So we've still got that inspiration from the original Eggs Up and how we think about our business and about how our business wins. But just opened 91. We should add another 18 to 20 this year, depending on development timelines. But things are going well for us, and we're passionate about protecting that.
Mm-hmm. How much demand are you getting from franchisees right now?
In terms of new growth?
Yeah,
we've got of the 20 to 24 we'll open this year, we've got about 40% of those are existing franchise partners that are expanding their business. And the 60% to those other 12 or 14 would be new franchise partners that we're attracting either in current markets or new states. So we're going to be entering Pennsylvania this year. We've got 2 other markets in Texas that'll be opening for the first time this year. So it's a nice blend. We've got, the endorsement of current franchise partners wanting to expand, and then the attraction of the category first, and then Eggs Up Grill's positioning and performance within the category that's helping fuel that. Mm-hmm. Could always be more.
What's the draw for the category? Like what's the category strengths? Because it's, I always think, generally speaking, for the category, I always felt that it was it was kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and I've been paying attention to it, obviously, since we've been going to Eggs Up for 20 plus years. That, I've been paying attention to the category for some time. It's a fascinating one, but it's always sort of been, it's developed under the radar, below the radar, over the years, as the attention was paid to like things like fast casual pizza and frozen yogurt and burgers and stuff like that. And yet here's breakfast and lunch places just continuing just to do really well.
I think the attraction, from a guest perspective or a consumer perspective, you've got legacy players in the category, and as happens with a lot of long-term businesses or legacy players, over time you start trying to be all things to all people, and so you kind of lose your focus, and unfortunately in the consumer's mind they become a bit confused on exactly who you are and what are you great at. So I think that creates the opportunity. I think from a competitive standpoint, I think from a consumer perspective, there's a convenience factor here. There's a craveability factor here. There's a social factor to this. We see in our restaurants is, you're at, you go with family, right? There's multi-generational on the weekends on a lot of these things. There is a very broad consumer set when you go into our restaurants, whether that's from age, whether that's from income levels, professions, ethnicities. It's just a very approachable, comfortable concept. We're incredibly friendly and put a lot of passion behind that, along with the community connection. So I think from a consumer perspective, and not just Eggs Up specifically, kind of the social aspect with this, there's a comfort food aspect to this. There's an approachability to the occasion as well, that I think that the ones that do it well, particularly the relatively new concepts, it's probably fresher, cleaner, friendlier, and a little bit better overall experience than what they might get out of the legacy players. So I think it's maybe less about, wow, consumers have really shifted, and more about there's people that are responding to what the consumer expectation and opportunity is with these type of products. from a franchisee's perspective or investor's perspective, franchise partner's perspective, for the smaller folks, the lifestyle that you're only a single day part. It's a relatively simple operation compared to other full service, particularly casual dining type concepts. That single day part's not only good for the franchise partner, it's really good for the quality of the team that you attract. The economics are really strong for us, which is compelling as you start going up the ladder. And what's the motivation behind the franchise prospect to get into this? So from a consumer, I think that demand and expectation's been there for a while, for a long time. It's just that you now have concepts that are really delivering on the opportunity and promise for those expectations.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When they said one of my magic phrases right now, and the thing is like, one of the things that drives me nuts in the industry and it's driven nuts for a while, but particularly today, is why do you can't be all things to all people. And in fact, you can't. I don't think any restaurant chain can really do that. I mean, the consumer's not going to let you, not today, not when you have brands that do $6 million a box selling chicken fingers. They want you to be who you are, and they don't want you to be something else. And so brands need to just remember that and then just stop trying to do things like add sushi to a bar and grill chain. Stop with that nonsense. You don't have to do anything like that. Just be who you are. Be what the customer said and just be really, really good at it. And then the other thing I like about your sector is that people can get the evening off. It's I mean, I gotta imagine that's a really, really big draw for managers and other people because, they know that they're going to get their evenings off.
It's a big draw for all segments of it, whether that's ownership and less hassles of dealing with and trying to manage the multiple schedules. It's good for the managers for their personal lifestyle perspective, as well as the operational perspective. It's great for the team members. As I know you're aware of, there's a lot of folks in our industry that work multiple jobs, and the ability to know that when I work with Eggs Up Grill, that can be my primary job because I always work days and I can fit some part-time work in other places and not having to worry about, rolling the dice on schedules week by week. And is it days? Is it nights at that job? It's always at Eggs Up, the day shift. So we get a bit better quality, more mature team member there. For some folks, it's the flexibility of working with us and then being able to be home when their children get home from school. So there's a lot of positives really on every touch point on a single day part concept.
Mm-hmm. All right. So where are you going to be 5 years from now? How are things? Where do you foresee over the next few years?
Yeah, we're really excited about the momentum that we have behind us right now. You will cross our 100th location, probably July, August of this year, in 115, probably in the, 30, 35 locations a year, 25, 30, 35 locations a year. We want to be smart, very smart about the partners that we bring on board, Jonathan, to the brand. It's a marathon, not a sprint for us. We've got, I'm an investor in the business. The majority investors in the business as well think the same way, which is really helpful for all of us, builds confidence in the franchisees that we currently have, as well as we're attracting that what they're signing up for and investing, a lot of them putting all their chips in the middle of the table, understand the leadership, understand what we're solving for. And as we deliver business results, their growth continues to accelerate. So, 5 years from now, 150, 200 on top of the 100 we're about to have. So we're excited about it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
And you were the first one.
I was at the first one. Yeah. And hopefully egg prices will be down by that point.
Hopefully. I'm counting on it. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever seen anything like this? That's what's happening to egg prices the past couple of years.
These are record high prices for eggs. You mentioned the coffee market. I've learned more about the coffee market in the last 3 weeks than I ever was interested in knowing. Obviously, the dollar scale is not near as impactful, but they're at record high prices for the green coffee market right now. So hopefully that settles down as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's the egg prices right now actually remind me of chicken wings a few years ago.
Oh yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And And I, chicken wings historically has been, that's like a blood sport, chicken wing historically. It's just,
Absolutely.
It's given so many executives headaches.
Yeah,
because
that's a great analogy or comparison with this. But this has let me know for sure what comes first between the chicken and the egg. So I have learned that.
All right. Ricky, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
Anytime, Jonathan. Great to see you again. Be well.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons. Artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive, or you may subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.